Hare Krishna. Namaste. Chapter 6, entitled as Dhyana Yoga. Sloka 5. Uddhared ātmanātmānaṁ, nātmānam avasādayet, ātmaiva ātmano bandhur, ātmaiva ripur ātmanāh. Then when it comes to compassion, showing compassion to those who have committed offenses against us, how we can show compassion? Compassion exhibited within us by thinking sad for what reaction that they will get for their misdeeds that they are committing. In that way, we show compassion for them. We laugh at them because we don't go in front of them and laugh at them. That's not what it means. We internally feel like that because they don't understand. The truth is that they can't offend us in any way, because whatever they are trying to do is to our body, and we know we are not this body, we are Atma. Therefore, their act becomes a laughable situation for us. And another point is thankful. We be thankful to our enemies because they are the ones who are reducing our bad karmas. If they are not going to do it, then we'll be continuing to have our bad karmas. So we have to be thankful towards them. Be forgiving. We forgive them because they are doing out of ignorance, which is being influenced by their previous vasanas and karma. Therefore, we forgive them. These are the points that we should learn when it comes to our external enemies. When it comes to our internal enemy or friend, which is what we are discussing now, our mind, then we need to learn to deal with our mind. If we know how to deal with our mind, then it will become our real good friend. If we don't know how to handle and deal with our mind, then it will become a worst, serious enemy. If we have detached manas, mind, then it will be our true friend. In that way, it will help us, the same mind will help us to raise above the material platform. If we have an attached mind, then it is our enemy. In that way, it will push us deep into the material platform. In the sloka, if we observe in the first line, uddhared ātmanātmānaṁ. Here, when mentioning about getting delivered by mind, Krishna uses ātmanātmānaṁ, 2 times the term Atma. That is, one to mention about the Jivatma, another one is about the mind. Atma can be interpreted as Jivatma and also as mind. And of course, it has many other meanings as well. Staying on in context of this sloka, so Atma gets delivered with the help of the mind. That is, uddhared ātmanātmānaṁ. But in the second line, nātmānam avasādayet, there is only mention of Atma one time, not twice. That is, Atma gets degraded. That is what has been mentioned here. So here we have to derive the Atma term from the first line. That Atma is mind, which means now we put together the Jivatma get degraded by the mind, Atma. That's how we have to understand this 2 lines. Great souls in past always worked to make friendship with the mind. We always try to increase our network by getting into various medias But the saintly people, wise people, will try to work on establishing friendship with their mind, not with the external people, because they are afraid of mind. If mind is not cooperative, not made friendship with it, it can make anyone crazy. So if an enemy is stronger than us, then it's better to make friendship with that enemy rather than going against that enemy. And we will be the loser if we try to do that. And that's a practice that great souls have done to make friendship with the mind. So we need to understand what mind wants and dogtail or somehow or the other use that in favor of our need. Now let's revisit the meaning of this sloka one more time. Uddhared ātmanātmānaṁ, nātmānam avasādayet. That is, an attached mind pulls one down, whereas the detached mind will deliver us. A person who is attached to the material things will be pulled down, and a person who is detached from the material things will be uplifted or delivered. We know that mind functions on two levels, one as friend and another as our enemy. Enemy by making us attached, and a friend by making us detached. What we need to learn to do is to make the mind as our friend by making it to get attached and detached both. How is that possible? Make detached from material things and get attached to the spiritual aspect. In that way, mind is happy because still the attachment and detachment program is running. But the only change is the attachment and detachment towards what has been changed. When we apply bhakti in this context, then we can understand it much more easily. A person who is attached to the lotus feet of Krishna will be delivered, whereas a person who is detached from the lotus feet of Krishna will be entangled. In other words, a person who is attached to the material sense objects will be entangled, and a person who is detached from the material sense object will be delivered. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. As we learned that mind likes to get attached, because of which the Atma gets pulled down, what we must do is to train the mind to get attached to the lotus feet of Krishna. This way, we get uplifted rather than getting pulled down. By doing so, the mind becomes detached from the worldly things automatically without even our effort. Of course, the context here in this sloka that we are seeing is about Atma, as this chapter mainly focuses on Atma, but the same can be applied to Paramatma, and this will get more prominent as we enter into chapter 7. With the Atma program, there are two difficulties involved that has to be mentioned. Atma doesn't have a physical form that we can see. That's number one. Number two, though we are Atma and present within this body, we are still not very familiar with it. To think of something which is not familiar to us is very, very difficult. Number three, Atma doesn't have much of history that we know of. So what are we going to think about? Atma constantly. Whereas when it comes to Paramatma, number one, we know he has a beautiful form that we can meditate upon. Number two, he is present outside in the form of deities. And these forms are very familiar to us, unlike our Atma, which is not familiar. Number three, the Lord has many histories, many pastimes. He has appeared, he has played many leelas, he has wonderful qualities. So therefore I can contemplate on this wonderful thing upon Paramatma. All these three things are not possible when it comes to Atma. Therefore, this is the very first problem that when we get into the Atma realization program. Second problem or difficulty is, as we somehow or the other mature and come to the stage of self-realization or Atma Sakshatkara, vision of Atma, then the next problem is we start thinking ourselves as independent, Swatantriya, independent from Paramatma, which is much more dangerous than anything else. Then we'll start enjoying ourselves besides the Lord. Of course, if one can connect all this together and think that individual Atma, which I had vision of, is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, which is not independent, then that is a perfect means of attaining self-realization, Atma Sakshatkara. If not, that leads into a dangerous situation. To summarize main points here, number one, with the help of mind, free of attachment towards material objects, the self must be made to cross the ocean of repeated birth and death, the samsara. If we are able to do that, then our mind becomes good friend. Number two, when the mind gets bound, attached to the material object, then the self is made to struggle in the ocean of repeated birth and death, the samsara. In this case, the mind becomes our enemy. And the same thing is stated in Vishnu Puranam as well. Manayeva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayah bandhaya vishaya sango mukti nirvishayam manaha. That is, for one, mind is the cause of bondage and mind is cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in sense objects is a cause of bondage, and mind detached from the sense object is cause of liberation. Also, Srila Prabhupada in his purport concludes stating that therefore the mind which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness is the cause of supreme liberation. Uddhared ātmanātmānaṁ nātmānam avasādayet ātmaiva ātmano bandhur ātmaiva ripur ātmanāḥ. Namaste. Hare Krishna.